All right, everybody. We have three things left that we need to do. We need to get animations, we need to get sound effects, and we need to get some UI going for our score and for like a game over, right? So first things first, the game over and the score we've already done before. What we need to do is we need to go into our hierarchy, grab a canvas. This is going to be the tricky part. If you remember, we need to set the scale, the UI scale mode to scale its screen size and give it a resolution that makes sense. And then let's just add a text. We're going to go UI, we're going to go text. And as always, if it's our first text of the project, we have to import TMP essentials. Cool. You do not need this examples and extras. And I'm going to go ahead, because our game is such light colors, I'm going to go ahead and change my text to black. I'm going to increase the size a little bit. Change the screen, the size of the text box, and anchor it to the top left corner. Just so that way then I can have I'm going to rename the text object score text. Alright, so with that, let's move this over a little bit just so it's not right on the corner. I'm going to give it some default. I'm going to say score is 0. And this should be really easy for us, and I encourage you, while I get the script open, to try and do this on your own, because it's not too terribly difficult. Remember, the one tricky part is we need to get a hold of our using maybe if it wants to go using TM Pro. Now, this is actually a really good opportunity. You'll notice that I have this using Unity visual scripting. Sometimes as you're coding, Unity will try, or Visual Studio will try and add usings that you aren't actually using because they think that like you need it. Generally don't. And this is going to be very, very simple. We're just going to get a text mesh pro text and call it score text. And as soon as we update our score, we state score text dot text equals score plus score. Easy enough. We just did all of our UI besides like a loose screen. Now let's see if it's working. Probably won't. See, can I actually... We got an error, and the score definitely didn't update. Let's take a look. Game Manager... I don't know why it's highlighting the plane for me. Game Manager... I didn't drag the text in. Common error, one of the most common errors, is the null reference exception. It means you forgot to assign something, or something didn't get assigned. Okay, we're going. Bam, there we go. Now, I might want to go and change how big my text box is, but I now have a score. Now, next thing we're going to do, we've done it before already once. We're going to add an image. I'm going to make it take up the whole screen. And we're going to make it black. And I want to have a game over screen. And on that game over screen, I want to have what the score was. And a restart button. I think all of that's pretty important. So a button, I had to pause the video and go let the dogs out. So I'm going to recap one real quick. We're going to get a button. We're going to get some game over text. We're going to get our score. So for that, we're going to need... First of all, fix this text. Center it up. Let's center the actual text as well. Say game over. Not big enough. So we're gonna, whoa. There we go. There we go. I'm gonna even bold it. It looks kind of like crap, but we're not actually turning this project in, I don't think. Don't quote me on that. And we're gonna make another text that says score We're going to shrink it down a little bit because game over should be the top. Score. I'm going to move the score over just a tad. Or no, that's actually, this text is going to get updated. So we have our score. We're going to need one more score text for our game over score. Game over score. Perfect. And what else? Oh, we need to actually have a reference to the game over screen. That could just be a game object, because that's what it is, right? Game over screen. And where did we have the game end? Ooh, we don't. So let's make a function real quick called public void end game. And we'll have another one called restart game. Because since the player gets destroyed, we don't really want... I have two game managers. Oh, this is... I was using one from old project as notes on the side. My bad. We are in the right one, though, thankfully. Restart game, since our player gets destroyed, we really don't want our restart game or stuff like that in here. In fact, I don't think... This is also the wrong one here, too. Hold on a second. Let me go over here and reopen the scripts we need. There we go. There we go. There we go. I'm going to close all these other ones. There we go. Okay. We have player back up. When it destroys, we're going to say gm.endgame. Now, we said that we wanted this game running to be public, so that way we can go and, you know, turn things off. If we're running end game here, there is no reason for this to be public anymore. I'm even going to rename it to get the little g. I'm going to rename the score as well to get the little s because I did it again. Because in here, we could say game running equals false. This is, again, that idea of inversion of control. It doesn't make sense for the player to know if the game is running more than it necessarily needs to. And I actually just realized, ooh, no, this is wrong. Ignore all that. We don't need to set this to false, but it still does need to be public. This is kind of like the dance you play, right? Because, yeah, yes. There we go. That was a new error. There we go. Because we check to see if the game is running here, right? There are ways to go about just being able to check it publicly and all that stuff, but I think this is more simple for where we're at right now. Here, we're going to say game running in our end game equals false, and we're going to say game over screen dot set active is true. That checks that checkbox to say, yep, it's on. But before that, just because it really doesn't matter, but just because I think it makes more sense, we want to set the game over score to say score. We want to do this before we turn it on, right? Now, a restart game, if we're going to reload the scene, is going to need another using. Let's see if you remember what it is. It starts with Unity Engine dot scene management. We're going to access our scene manager and tell it to load scene 0. Easy peasy. So let's go ahead and update our game manager a little bit. And let's, before I do that, I want to go and add a button. Now, one very important thing, and I guess I didn't say it, I just did it, is you'll notice under my canvas, I have my score text. It's up in the top left. And actually, I think it will look really good. It'll look really bad if we leave that turned on while the game over screen is on. So I'm going to turn that off, apply the text, turn on the game over screen. Now, if I look at my image here, what I was originally going to say is it's very important that these text objects are childed to my image, right? Because when I turn them off and turn them on, excuse me, when I turn them off and when I turn them on, I want them to all basically follow suit with their parent. Now, if I put this button outside of here, first of all, it starts rendering behind, and the button's really small. We'll fix that in a minute. But if I turn off the game over screen, button's still there. These are all things that we want childed to it, right? That whole childing thing is a really powerful tool. I'm going to say restart right here. Restart. I'm going to increase the size. Now, if I go over to button, I want to hit the little plus, give it the game manager, and tell it to restart the game. Now, look at our game manager one more time. We have a couple things we have to fill in. I'm going to rename this image game over screen. I'm going to go to game manager, drop it in there, drop over the game over game over score. I'm going to rename it here score. I'm going to rename it game over score. You don't need to, but having a bunch of text, a bunch of objects in here just named text, I have that in a million projects and it's never fun. And then we're going to disable the game over screen. We still have sound, we still have animations to do, but let's see if this is working. Cool, cool, cool. Our score is still working at the top, and game over. Score 100, restart. Let's go! It works! Very cool. We have our game over. We can restart the game. We can play it. We have a game that works right now. But let's give it a little bit more spice, right? This is where we got to give it the sauce just a bit. Our plane is kind of boring. I think we have the art to animate it. So what we're going to do is, on our plane, we're going to go ahead and add an animator component. Now, this is one of the things that trips people up a lot, the animation system in Unity. I have students who despise it, and I'm like, guys, you need to know how to use it. It's it's not hard. So, we have our animator, right? It's right here. The animator, I want you to think as like a puppet master. It has the puppet strings, right? And we're going to go up to window really quick and pull up an animator window. Ooh, they made it look a little bit nicer. Okay, I love it. I love it. Now, in our art folder, I'm going to create a clip and make a, or I'm sorry, I'm going to make a folder and name it animation materials. Okay. Now, if I go click on my plane, you'll notice that there's nothing going on in here. I keep losing the plane. I'm just going to really quick name this plane. I'm going to open up one more window. Animation takes a second, right? There's a couple windows that we need. I'm going to dock it down here. To begin animating plane, create an animation clip. Now, I'm actually going to remove the animator component. And to begin, and now the message says, to begin animating plane, create an animator and an animation clip. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to go ahead, and this is our, it says it's our animation, so I'm going to say fly animation. And it automatically applied a plane animator controller. I like this and I don't, because it can sometimes get a little confusing. The animator controller is, like I said, the puppet master. What I took the animator off because when you just add one, there is no controller in here. You can go about making one the way I just did by clicking on here and clicking on the animation window. And if it says create an animation clip and animator, it'll do that for you. You can also right click, create animation animator controller, right? And there it is. I don't really need this one because we already have the plane. And we're going to talk about what's going on here. We're not going to talk about exit in any state because it's not really relevant for what we're doing right now. And to be honest, you don't need them too terribly much, right? Exit is more important when you're having multiple sub-state machines, stuff like that. Any state, I feel like, honestly, just gets... It makes your animator less intentional, and that might be just a me thing, right? I like my animator very, very rigid, knowing where things are going, right? Because animators, if you go Google Unity animator, you'll see webs of connections that go crazy, right? Those are usually a sign of a bad animator, but sometimes you do need to have that. This entry means as soon as, it's basically the start of the animator, right? It's going to go and immediately start going from that node to our orange node. Our orange node is our default animation. And this game really only has one animation, right? It's just our player and his propeller flying, right? So, if I go hit play right now, we should see with the plane selected. Oh, I took this out and I didn't put it back in. Whoops. There we go. We should see the fly animation. It's animating, right? It has that blue, but there's no frames in the fly animation, so we don't actually see anything happen. But it is running the fly animation. Let's add some frames. It's really, really easy to do. I'm going to go ahead and drag this window up here because we want to have access to our project window because that's where our sprites are, right? Here they are. I'm going to drag the first one in. And this can get a little confusing. You see how there's nothing here, right? It's giving me a little red circle. If I hover over, you kind of want to add it up in this like gray area. Okay, so I'm going to add the next one at 5 frames. These are frames, not seconds. And then I'm going to do another one. And let's see what happens now. We should see it start animating. Now, the tricky part with this, if you were adding these and you were dragging them and it wouldn't let you do it, oh, I died. Make sure you are selected on your plane, okay? If you're not, you don't get anything. You can't actually animate the plane unless you have it selected in the hierarchy. This is where prefab mode actually comes in handy so much because you are always editing that prefab, right? And that's it for our animation. Works pretty well. If I go and I hit play, now I look like I'm actually flying a little bit. Now, you can play with the frames of this animation as much as you'd like, right? You can make it the propeller spin fat or slower by extending these frames. You can make it go faster by shortening the distance between these frames. It's up to you. There's no right answer here. Just for the sake of showing it, let's say I had another animation right here. I can add more animations by going through this little drop down, creating new clips. I would go about connecting them via these transitions. This is something that I'll definitely be talking about in class more. It's not something that I really want to get into right now. The animator is powerful because you can set parameters. You can have all these different, you can have floats, ins, bools, triggers, all these different things. You can have multiple layers. You can have different substates. This is where all your animations kind of web together, connect together, and then in your code, get your functionality going. And then you have some kind of logic that talks to the animator and says, well, you should be playing this here and now and here and now. It's also where if you are trying to time, the best example I have is time like a bullet spawning to a shoot animation, right? You can call code from your animator. It's very, very important to get comfortable with this because it is kind of a linchpin to a good game, right? You're absolutely going to need it. Now, the last thing that we're going to do, I actually go find the files. We're going to add sound. Sound is kind of complex when it comes to game engines. If you are in 110, you should have access to a couple sound effects on our Canvas site. I'm extracting them over on the other monitor here. I have a crash, I have menu, I have tap, and I have Tappy BGM. Now, I think we're going to test this in a second. I think I just got the sound from the computer playing. But we're going to make a new folder called sound. I'm going to double click it. And I am going to drag my sound effects into here. Excellent. Now, on a big game, I would not use Unity sound system. I would probably not use Unreal's either, though I do have less experience with that one, so maybe it's better. There are tools out there called Fmod or Wise, and if you've played recent games, like in the past, this is recording this in 2025, most games use Fmod or Wise. They're kind of third-party tools that integrate into your game engine to do sound. If it's your first game, if it's your 10th game, maybe you don't want to do that unless you have a dedicated sound person. Because Unity and Unreal do have built-in sound systems. Putting background music in is incredibly difficult. I honestly don't know if we're going to be able to do it. I'm going to take this Tappy BGM and drag it into the scene. And now, I don't know how loud this is going to be, so be ready. Checking to make sure I don't have anything muted. There's no sound. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. Oh, it's because I haven't muted. Oh! I'm sorry for blowing out your eardrums. Hold on. Let me do this. Okay. I need to be able to hear it still. Alright. Let's try that again. Turning the desktop. I have so many volume controls over here. Okay, we're gonna try it again. There we go. And the music keeps playing, and that's okay. I don't think there's a problem with that. Very, very easy. Alright. Now, if you want to mute your audio, this button right here, that's what I had first, mutes the audio in the game view. And trust me, as you're working on games for months on end, you're going to click that mute button. But how do we get actual sound effects to play? Also very easy. Let's go to our player controller, and let's make a serialized field for our audio clip. And this is going to be our tap clip. And I'm going to do that again. Now, you might notice that I didn't write private, because technically you don't have to. I do encourage you guys to do it so you go and like get used to doing it, but I'm not ever going to take points for you not. It is by default private. And I'm also going to do one for our crash clip. There we go. So, and I'm doing this in my player controller script, right? Because that's where all these things are happening. When I do a tap action, I'm going to want to say, play the tap clip. Very complicated code here. I'm going to say audio, ooh, I'm blanking on it. Audio source dot play clip at point, and that's going to be our tap clip at this position. And that's it. We're going to do the same thing when we crash. We're going to want to play the crash clip. And in fact, if we had another sound effect, which I don't think we do, let's take a look. We have a tap, a menu, background music, and a crash. So we don't have one for points, but getting points, I would absolutely have a sound effect for that. A good game, every kind of action has multiple reactions back to the player, multiple pieces of feedback. So a sound effect, a visual effect, a controller vibrate, something that like does something, right? So we have these two pieces of code, and you might be asking yourself, well, if we're going to play a sound effect, and then destroy the game object, is the sound effect actually going to play? Yes. And we're going to watch our hierarchy while we use this, because this play clip at point, it's very, very good for 3D audio, but it's also good because it spawns in a little game object that is that audio clip, right? So it is independent of the object this is on. So when our player destroys, we don't have to worry about the audio clip disappearing with the player. So let's go ahead and bring in our tap clip to our player controller. Tap clip and crash clip. And now we should be able to hear a couple sound effects. I muted the audio. What am I doing? What am I doing? I turned it off because I hate listening to my game's audio. And you'll notice as I tap, you'll notice this one-shot audio object spawning in. Now, something I've been meaning to do for a while is change what the tap sound effect is in here. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the... Oh, where are you? Where's the background music? Did it go on an object? I bet it did. Or am I blind? It's literally right there at the bottom. You did nobody saw that. It's video recorded, but nobody saw that. Okay. So now I'm going to go over here and increase my volume so I can actually hear the tap. Probably just heard the boom boom. Okay. There's my tap. I hate that audio. And my crash is also very loud. You can see the waveform right here is very quiet. But there we go. So we have sound effects. They're not great. I would definitely go and find better ones. We have background music if I turn it back on. But my audio is kind of crazy loud right now. We have a win and lose screen. We have a score. We have animations. We just made Tappy play. And if you got this far, if you're in one of my classes, this is just the start. You're going to have so much more that you can go ahead and mess with in your projects. And I'm excited to see what you all make. If you aren't in one of my classes and you're just, for some reason, watching these videos, I'm also excited. And I hope you reach out and tell me what you're working on. This is the last video that I make for 110, so good luck on your platformers, and have a good one.